I'm Anne Butera, and this is Sips of Inspiration. I'm so excited today. I have Karen Lowry Reed with me. Karen is one of my very earliest blogging friends. I think we crossed paths almost 10 years ago. It was the winter of 2010,
10,
2011.
yeah, somewhere in there.
So yes, Karen has always been a great cheerleader and so inspiring to me as well. So I'm going to stop talking and have her tell you a little bit about who she is and what she does.
Okay, well, I have spent my life raising 4 children and doing lots and lots of different volunteer work. Um, and all the way along in all of that, I've been a maker. Um, and I think sometimes some of the volunteer work I do is kind of challenging and draining. And so I really think of my sewing space as a sanctuary where I can um, just putter and make things kind of inspired by the moment. I really feel grateful to have that space to kind of regenerate and rejuvenate myself. Um, and I recently had an interaction with someone in a workshop, and she called herself a gift maker. And that kind of rang a bell for me because I think I have been making things for other people for forever, and sometimes stuff for myself. But there's something about being isolated with COVID. And it's kind of prompted me to think that it would be fun to really dig in and make things to share with other people. I had a very short-lived Etsy shop way back that just didn't work out. But this time I feel like I have space in my life, and I'm really excited about launching that in the new year.
That's so exciting. And you have a brand new website right now. And will you be blogging only on that new space now?
I think so. That's my intention. I'm still working out some kinks, but a lot of people have said it's better to get started and not be perfect than
Totally.
to wait around till everything's perfect. So,
Right. If you wait around, you're never going to get
yeah.
started. That's wonderful. So my first question is, where do you find inspiration and what do you do to get inspiration flowing again if you're feeling stuck or drained or unmotivated?
Um, Boy, I find inspiration everywhere. I find it in poetry, in lyrics to songs, in the landscape, sometimes even in conversations I have with people. So I rarely run out of inspiration, but sometimes I do. And one thing that works for me is I just get up and walk away from whatever's got me stuck. And maybe that's something in my studio, or maybe it's something in my life. But if I just say, okay, stop, just stop agonizing, go do something else that's completely different. And what I find is things that really percolate, they can really kind of subconsciously play around with different ideas and things. And then, like, maybe I'll be washing my dishes in the sink and I'll be like, oh, okay. Or, I'll see something that's like, well, there, the block is gone, it's open again. Um, and I've been around a long time, so that's kind of how my story goes.
That's great. Yeah. From talking to all of my guests, so many of us find inspiration everywhere. And one thing that's always difficult for me is to remember to capture that inspiration when I have it, because if I don't, it'll just disappear. Which, when we're all so busy, it's hard not to have that happen.
Piece of paper and a pencil.
Right. I have
Write
no
it down or it's gone.
So my next question is, what has been your biggest creative challenge and what did you do to work past that?
Yeah. I have an interesting, yeah. I grew up in a very creative family, um, and I have some siblings who are extraordinarily brilliant. And that's a double-edged sword because all my growing up, I was encouraged to be creative, and there were always materials around to play with. And but you know, I always feel like those guys are just so brilliant. I'm sort of in their shadow.
Mhm.
And it's taken me a very long time to finally see, I'm a little emotional. It's taken
It's
me a
okay.
really long time to figure out that we're all different, and we all have different perspectives, and we all have different stories, and everyone's unique and valuable. So I've really been trying to roll with that. um, yeah, and I think it's taken me a long time to kind of own my voice. Um,
It's a hard thing to do.
yeah,
And
I
it's
think
so
so.
easy to compare yourself to other people, especially now with the internet and Instagram and all of that. Everything
Yeah.
is out there and everyone's doing such gorgeous, wonderful work. And it's hard not to compare yourself and feel a little inferior sometimes. But I think there's room for so many different
Mhm.
perspectives. And it's a good thing to be different.
And I think that's, that's when I try to remember to have a generosity of spirit, which I have with everyone else. And I try to remind myself that I should have a generosity of spirit with myself. Um, so, yeah,
It's not always easy, though.
yeah, I think that's why there was a little emotion in my throat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and when we make things, it's so close to our hearts, and it's hard to separate us from what we create.
Mhm.
So, what would you say has been either the best piece of advice that you've received during your creative journey or the biggest lesson that you've learned?
Um, well, I think probably I go back to my dad, who's, he's been gone 17 or 18 years, but he's still very much with me. And as kids, we used to walk in the woods a lot as a family. And what he used to ask us all the time was, what do you notice? We'd stop in the woods and he'd say, what do you notice? And when you stand still, you kind of hear things and you see things. And I remember being in a canoe with him one time, and it was kind of late fall, early winter. And he said, what do you see? And I remember like all of a sudden seeing like all the different colors in a stand of trees that had no leaves left on them.
Mhm.
But the bark and the texture of the bark and the shadows, and like it was really kind of remarkable. And I still remember that as a moment of great learning,
Mhm.
to notice and to see things that we don't always see because we're, you know, crashing through life.
Oh, yes.
Um, so I guess it would be noticing and just reminding oneself to see things like
Mhm.
how it, and I think that kind of plays into that unique voice that we all hear we all have, sorry. um, we all see things differently, and we interpret them differently, and that's part of what makes us creatively unique.
Mhm. Definitely. And yeah, I call that paying attention
Yes.
because it's so easy to let things go past you without really seeing. And when you're open,
Hmm.
suddenly the world is just such a magical, beautiful place. And you just can't help but be inspired and awed and such
Yeah.
a, and it's such a beautiful story that you have that memory with your father.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So before I say goodbye, I just would like you to tell a little bit, you with your new website and your new endeavor, what kinds of things are you going to have for sale once you open your shop? I'm curious.
Well, I have so many ideas. It's ridiculous. But I do have two granddaughters. One is 3, and and I have 4 children, and they have so many friends that are sort of my friends in a backdoor kind of way. And I've made a few gifts for these granddaughters, and um, friends of my kids have seen them and been like, how can I get one of those? I want one of those, So I feel like that might be one place to start working on things. And those might be like, I made a toddler sewing kit for Maggie that people went nuts for. And I've made her a little snail mail kit because she has all these pen pals. She's cooped up in an apartment in Brooklyn. And at 3, she now has pen pals, which is so precious, But I made a little pouch, where you can put your stamps and your cards. And so I'm thinking of sort of like little kits like that. But also for grown-ups, because I think, snail mail is special these days. So that's an idea. Maybe some wall hangings, maybe some maker kits like project bags and needle cases and that kind of thing. I mean, there's maybe a lot of those out there in the world, but I think once again, we all bring our own unique look to things. And I do a lot of dyeing of my own fabric with things from the garden. And so, that brings a little bit of Vermont to people.
Definitely.
So I have lots of ideas, and I think the next challenge is kind of narrowing it down to decide where I start.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's so exciting, and I wish you every success. And I hope everyone will go take a look at your new website, which is soandsolife.com. I'll put a link down below, and you can see in my blog post the beautiful work that Karen does. Thank you so much, Karen.
Well, this has been so fun.
Oh, I'm so glad to have finally met you face to face, if not in person.
And thank you for all the ways that you supported and inspired me.
Oh, I'm so glad. And thank you for all of the support and encouragement over the years.
Great.
And everyone, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.